debate tonight, the NDA government's election budget. The centre has called this a dream budget that is something for every citizen.
2 हेक्टेयर तक की जिनकी जमीन है, 2 हेक्टेयर तक की जमीन को उन सभी को सीधा उनके इनकम में सपोर्ट, डायरेक्ट इनकम सपोर्ट 6,000 रुपए प्रति वर्ष के हिसाब से देने का निर्णय सरकार ने किया है. The existing rates of income tax will continue for FY 19-20 also. I propose the following changes. Individual taxpayers having taxable annual income up to ₹5 lakhs will get full tax rebate.
Prime Minister Modi has hailed Interim Finance Minister Piyush Goyal's budget, calling it a pro-poor, pro-farmer, pro-taxpayers budget.
हमारी सरकार किसानों के लिए एक के बाद एक ठोस कदम उठा रही है.
But the opposition claims to have called the Modi government's bluff. The Congress has called this budget 2019 Centre's please all budget for votes.
By an election campaign speech. By doing so, the government has trampled on time-honored conventions. A government confident of returning to power would have respected the conventions.
With just months to go for election 2019, Mirror now asks, has the Modi government presented a budget that will win votes? Is this a union budget or an election manifesto? Let's debate.
So has the government made plans for a mandate that isn't theirs? Remember, this particular government's mandate ends in April this year. All of the announcements that have been made will have to be passed by a fresh government. Is it fair for the government to have made plans for a new government? Optimism is one thing, but is this really an election manifesto? Joining me on the show, Rohan Gupta, spokesperson for the Congress, is Zaid Zafar Islam for the BJP, Akash Jindal is an economist, and senior journalist Vivek Kaul, who's in the studio with Vinay Tiwari, consulting editor of the Times Network. I welcome all of you to this conversation, and I thank you for your time. Vivek, I want to start with you. It did read and sound a lot like an election manifesto. Do you see this as an election manifesto?
Yeah, I mean, it's what I call a Chedin Part 2, out and out. I mean, it will basically give, talking points to Mr. Narendra Modi, the great marketer that he is over the next 2 to 3 months as the race for 2019 hots up.
Okay. Vinay?
Bottom line is there is a background to why this has happened. I mean, since December, if you notice, the narrative is being set by the opposition in many ways, and the government has been pushed to respond to it. That's very different from what was happening before 2 years before or earlier. It was the government who was setting the narrative, and the opposition was responding to it. That narrative setting actually continued into 2019 as well. There was a lot of discourse about, I mean, the Congress has been raising the pitch on Rafale. They've been, farmers has become a very huge issue. The obfuscation of the job figures has led to another controversy itself. What this budget now does, in many ways, is it has now pushed the narrative back where the government has set the agenda. It's now for the opposition to respond to what proposals have been set. Ethics, conventions, precedences have, of course, all been given a go-by. Because as you rightly said at the start, this is a budget presented by a government which another government or a fresh government will have to carry through.
So let's just step back with both of you and just take a look at these announcements. Because while it looks and feels great, my question is this: does the announcement, does it even exist, or is it just a promise at this point? Because when we were writing these out, so 6,000 rupees to every farmer who has less than 2 hectares of land, is that a budget announcement or is that a budget promise?
In my book, none of these schemes are possible to implement because there is no implementation mechanism or even the detail available. There is absolutely no way you can implement a scheme like the one they've introduced without proper land. There is a huge inconsistency in the land record quality across India. There are some states where they are really poor. Some states have a slightly better situation, but some states are really poor in land records. But having said that, the reason I gave the political background to it is because the aim and the objective of this budget is not to worry about implementation at this stage. The aim is to empower the BJP worker, the MLA and the MPs who will go out to campaign with some talking points. The government did not have as many talking points because they were on the back foot. This budget now provides them that ammunition to provide talking points. It's just a narrative building exercise. I think the implementation is a big challenge which will happen whenever the new government comes in.
Faye, in your experience as a journalist, how often have governments done this, where basically they've made promises, and I'm going to continue to call it a promise, without any of the details, which are still difficult for us to imagine how it will be implemented, simply with the point of view of the elections?
I mean, I can't recall any other instance directly. And I mean, as Vinay rightly said, this is basically a talking point budget for all the BJP members to go out there and do some good marketing. See, the basic thing is, you know, how do you identify people who have less than 2 hectares of land? I mean, that is next to impossible. Or take the pension scheme, where they say income of less than 15,000 in the informal sector. Now,
Yes.
you have to take into account the fact that the informal sector is basically, you know, people get paid in cash, and
Yes.
a lot of their income tends to vary.
And-
so
and-
how do you figure out that the guy,
And
you know,
until yesterday, we had the Niti Aayog telling us that they had no data on the informal sector. It's very
Yes.
difficult
I mean,
to get
Niti
data.
Aayog these days has become a joke, so let's not even go there. So.
Let me get in Syed Zafar Islam to respond to that. Mr. Islam, was this an announcement of the BJP's manifesto dressed up like a union budget? Can he not hear me? Mr. Islam, can you hear me?
No, I don't think he can hear.
Yeah, no, I can hear you, yes.
Yes. Was this an election manifesto?
Faye, please go ahead. Earlier I was not able to hear.
Yes. Was this an election manifesto disguised as a union budget, Mr. Islam?
Is it an election? It is the budget for the people of this country. It is the budget for the poorer section of the society. It is budget for the marginal section of the society. It's an interim budget. It is not a full budget, but of course there are certain things which needed to be done, which has been done. It's not a manifesto. Everything which has been promised in the budget has been done in the past and will be done in the future as well. But of course, this has to be ratified by the incoming government. Whoever will come will definitely ratify. But what is more important for all of us to understand that this government has done everything for every single section of the society.
But Mr.
So today,
Islam, it's very easy.
I think people are talking. I heard the Congress.
It's very easy to say that
No,
you
no,
will
no,
do
I'll
something
just
for
tell you one thing.
everyone
You were
when you
also
don't have to
discussing
take the
about
responsibility of
convention.
implementation. Technically speaking, the government as it stands today doesn't have to take responsibility for implementing any of these promises, because it will have to be passed and implemented by a different government, even if it is a BJP government.
No, but
right now you're not in a position to
what-
say.
No, see, what needs to be implemented immediately, something which actually being discussed in the marketplace, is the support we have given to the farmers, and that is from the retrospective date, means it is being done. It has been provided for in the budget, and the allocation of 20,000 crore has already been made in this quarter. So, and the balance 75,000 will be done in the next quarter. One can even improve that. It can reduce that of the incoming government, but it's something which the new government will decide. But of course, let me tell you two things which is important. The people are talking about the convention. I think the Congress party should also remember that they had forgotten about the convention in 2014 when Mr. Chidambaram had presented the interim budget. And what did he do? Today we have done for the poor, and it was important for to do something in the tax, the direct tax, purely because they needed to plan about the TDS, and something which is important for the very smaller section of the society, the poorer section of the society, or the middle class, the lower middle class. And what he had done, I'll just read out what he had done in 2014 budget for your information and for your viewers and knowledge. In keeping with the conventions, I do not propose to make any announcement regarding changes to the tax laws. However, the current economic situation demands some intervention that cannot wait for the regular budget.
Sure.
This is what we have done, and this is what he had spoken.
So, Mr. Islam, are you accepting that the current economic situation demands an intervention?
Just a second.
Thereby accepting that the current economic situation is not healthy.
He reduced the excise duty on the luxury car. Something which you must highlight.
Okay,
Faye,
we will.
You must highlight.
And we did.
He has accepted the fact.
I'm sure journalists highlighted it at the time.
Only to reduce the prices of the luxury car.
We are all aware of that. But Mr. Islam, answer my question, please. Are you accepting that the current economic situation as it stands today was in dire need of intervention? Thereby, are you accepting that the economic situation today is not healthy?
No.
Then why did you need to intervene in the manner that you did?
No, in this case, only I'm suggesting that the convention, I'm talking in respect to the convention he was talking about, the convention whether to do something with the direct or indirect tax.
So what was the government's reason today then?
Who needed to plan about their TDS. It is nothing to do with the economic condition. It is something which is important it's something which is needed to be done, and it cannot wait till.
Okay. So if it couldn't wait 2 months, how did it wait 4 months, 4 years, and 8 months? Why didn't you do it in your first year, or your second year, or your third year, or your fourth year?
No. See, Faye, it is important for you to realize this is the interim budget. Every year was a regular budget, people had the clarity that this is what has been proposed. Something which needed to be proposed today, something which they needed a certainty. And that certainty which will be there for them, for the 3 crore taxpayers who actually needed to plan about their tax calculation and the TDS, what they need to work out. That they can plan today.
Okay. Rebuttals, Vivek Kaur?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of repeat a line from this movie Diwar, which was released in 1975. There's a dialogue in that movie which basically goes like this, कि औरों के पाप गिनाने से अपने पाप कम नहीं हो जाते. So just because Congress broke convention in 2014 doesn't mean BJP breaks it again in 2019. So.
Vinay, do you have a rebuttal to what Zafar Islam was saying? So he said, remember, this is an interim budget, and he said Congress did it because they felt there was a need for intervention. Here, there was no need for intervention. The only need was that people need clarity. So
but the only rebuttal I have is, Mr. Iqbal has just kind of toyed himself up in knots, and I'll tell you why. Because he's quoted a specific line, which we actually mentioned during the day, which is this, that Mr. Chidambaram quoted the so-called prevailing economic situations to justify some of the differences in the tax code and the SENVAT and excise duty changes that he had made. But the operative line is due to prevailing economic conditions. If that is the justification for presenting a full Big Bang budget, then I'm afraid the BJP has to admit that the prevailing economic situations are not conducive. Because you have allocated 20,000 crore this quarter itself for a scheme that is actually going to be implemented the next financial. Obviously, because you believe the farmers' condition is not good. It's an acknowledgement that the farmers are in dire state of immediate and emergent intervention.
So if we consider what has been announced, farmers, unorganized workers, and people at the lowest bracket of the salaried sector, you felt obviously that they were in need of some sort of intervention and some sort of cash in hand from the government. But let me bring in the other two voices as well. Akash Jindal is an economist. Akash Jindal, what is your response to the budget announcement or the budget promise we heard today?
Yeah, Faye, I have been saying it for the past 1 week on all channels. It would be a Laddu Peda budget. It has been a Laddu Peda budget. Of course, we all know the Laddu Pedas have been distributed, and whoever the incumbent government is, they can't withdraw any of the Laddu Pedas. But apart from that, there are certain questions for my dear friend Mr. Zafar Islam. Firstly, 6,000 rupees per year to farmers, 500 rupees per month. Is it going to impact any farmer? 500 rupees per month. Secondly, now there has been certain interesting data yesterday and today. We have been talking regularly, Faye, regarding jobs crisis. Now, yesterday we heard about a data. Now, whether right or wrong, I don't know, that job employment availability is at 40 or 45-year low. And so today I expected that at least there would be huge announcements as far as job creation is concerned. There were certain announcements, but I have to ask my friend from BJP, how do you want to tackle the job crisis? Now we have a data, whether you say it's authentic or not, it's up to you. Thirdly, there have been two other datas. Now, demonetization year, the GDP growth data has been revised to 8.2%. I have been a supporter of demonetization, but 8.2%, I have also not thought that we'll have a data of 8.2%. Last year also the GDP data has been changed, 7.2%. So firstly, I would like to know from him, farmers, even if we think that perhaps it's, what have been doled out can't be met because they're seeing the deficit position, but 500 rupees per month, how does the government expect to help the farmer with 500 rupees per month? And what about unemployment? I mean, whatever you have done today for unemployment, is it sufficient? According to my analysis of my organization, akashindal.in, it's very, very little which has been done for tackling unemployment. And again, now you are talking about rural infrastructure, you are talking about many other things, but then the 3,000 rupees which you are talking about unorganized, I've been asking since afternoon, what is the definition of unorganized sector? Because unorganized sector itself means the workers are not defined. Akash Jindal is having a PN with him, Akash Jindal is having a personal driver with him. Would they come in unorganized sector? Would 3 people working with the halwai, would they come in unorganized sector? How would we authenticate the data? How would we certify? Because till now we had pension for government employees. Now we had data records.
Yes.
So who would certify? Who would authenticate? How would those people get? I mean, supporting those people in unorganized sector, I am with BJP. Yes, they need to be supported.
Yes.
They also need pension once they can't work or they retire. But how do we authenticate, certify, and how do we define? How do we ultimately decide which are the people? How much is the quantity of the people? These are certain questions where I want my dear friend Jafar to respond.
Yes, and before we go to Zafar Islam, Rohan Gupta of the Congress joins us as well. Rohan Gupta, the Congress has spent most of the day criticizing the government for making announcements in the interim budget. But like Zafar Islam pointed out, Mr. Chidambaram had done that himself back in 2014. What is your response to him?
First of all, I think this is not the budget and this is the Jumla Patra for next Lok Sabha elections. BJP knows that this budget can be implemented only by the new government and they know that they are not going to come back to power. So since they know that people of this country are angry with them, so this is another Jumla Patra after 2014. Look, this is what we are going to do. Please vote us again. But I don't feel that people of this country will again fall in that trap. And even going by the provisions what they have made for farmers, I think they are rubbing salt on the wounds of the farmer. If you calculate the input cost of farmers, which is made of seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, and diesel, and the equipment cost, it has increased by on an average 30 to 40%. And if you see last 4.5 years, the MSP increase is not more than 4 to 5%. Obviously, farmers will commit suicide. And what they are offering 17 rupees per day. So I think they are making joke of the whole situation. For them, what is important is just to win elections. They don't have anything in their heart for as far as farmers are concerned or youth is concerned or anybody else is concerned. And I will agree with one of the panelists when they said that they haven't referred anything about employment here. We know we got this NSSO data yesterday where unemployment is highest in last 45 years. Why the government is silent on that? Third is unorganized workers. Let me remind my BJP friend that in 2015, they had launched Atal Bihari Vajpayee Pension Yojana. What is the situation on ground? Only 2% people, around 1 crore people, they are part of this Yojana. Now they are relaunching again. So I think this is all people know that BJP is not serious about what they are promising to people. For them, winning election is more important. Their budgets have been election-centric and not people-centric. And people are not going to be influenced by whatever they have said today. Coming lastly, about middle class. They have given 12,500 rupees benefit to people, taxable income up to 5 lakhs. They haven't changed the income tax slab. I think this is just an eyewash. The whole day I was reviewing social media comments and people's reactions on this. I think people have rejected it big way. And BJP will see in May 2019, this is going to boomerang. The message of this country, the people is very clear to all political parties. Don't give us new jumlas, perform or perish.
Yes. Well, allow Zafar Islam to respond both to the Congress spokesperson and of course to Akash Jindal asking for details on these plans. Mr. Islam, go ahead.
Faye, first of all, the Congress party spokesperson should introspect what they had done for the farmers. In fact, let me just give him some statistics and I think I will let him introspect and find out why they have not done anything for the farmers.
Because
they had given MSP and weighted average for their UPA2. UPA2 only 4% weighted average. And the inflation at that time, the weighted average inflation is almost 9%. So the farmer was paying much more for their input costs than they have ever even thought of paying in during our services. So actually, no, so let me just complete. So these people have actually only misled, telling lies. Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who has to pay a lot of taxes, outstanding taxes, they are not paying. He is on bail. He is telling lies on everything. He is spreading lies. They think that by telling lies, they will come to power.
This is the reality of BJP.
He has to first prospect whether he has fulfilled, discharged his own responsibility as a defaulter, as income tax defaulter. To a 1,200 crore outstanding, he has not paid.
All right, gentlemen.
He has
you don't have answer to my question.
And the amount is 50,000 crore. He has siphoned the money. So
This
all
debate is not about Rahul Gandhi.
these
This
people
debate
have
is not
done
about
and
Jumla
they feel that
Patra
they will
today.
come to the power. On the
So you
contrary,
have no answer to my
I'm going
question.
to stop both of you because you're not staying on point.
We have done for the weaker section of the society.
All right. So Zafar Islam.
We have done for women, we have done for the pensioners, we have done for
Okay, take a breath, Zafar Islam. There are very specific questions being asked.
Section of the society who has the expectation we have been able to deliver. But these people are only for the last 70 years telling lies.
I want to go back to my studio guests if I may. Yes.
Do you have the answer?
All right, Zafar Islam, calm down. Go ahead.
You know, the word jobs was used just 5 times during the speech. And this was very, very surprising given that this is, been the most hotly debated issue over the last few months. And even the 5 times that the word was used, it was used in very, very vague terms. The second thing is, as we all know, yesterday Business Standard broke the unemployment story, and unemployment is at a 4.5-decade high. And in the evening, Niti Aayog sort of had a press conference and they denied the government's own data.
Yes.
Which is very, very surprising. And then we got to hear things like Ola and Uber drivers have gone up. Which is the, by far the most ridiculous thing coming from a government think tank. Because, how many, Ola and Uber drivers are there out there? A few lakh at best. 10 to 12 million youth are entering the workforce every year. What comparisons are we making?
So the Niti Aayog number was 2.2 million Ola and Uber drivers. In total, altogether.
Yeah. And you have 12 million entering the workforce every year.
Yes. And of course, as was a point that was raised by a few people, if you're talking about that data, there are a lot of drivers who do both.
Yeah.
So there's an overlap in that as well.
And more than that, it's 2.2 million is come over a period of
Can I just come in for 10 seconds?
Just 1 second. One second, Zafar Islam. I did give you an opportunity to respond, but you spent most of that time talking about the Congress, and I just want my studio guests to respond as well. Vinay, the responses, of course, are going to be between the BJP. You did, I did, you did, I did. The concern we should have here as citizens is this. Is it a slippery slope? Will every consecutive government sort of just wipe out that grey ethical area a little more and go closer and closer to what is allowed?
So when you set a precedence of doing something which is rather unprincipled, then of course you set a precedence for that too. And the other side, just like he's quoting Mr. Chidambaram's budget speech of 2014, the next government will perhaps quote the budget speech of 2019 to do exactly the same. So of course that changes the game in many ways. You are opening the door for doing whatever you feel like, irrespective of propriety or convention. But my larger problem, Faye, is this. I'm very surprised that both national parties seem to have, for some, ironically they should know this better, but both national parties seem to have completely forgotten or not understood the agrarian problem and its linkage to the job crisis in cities at all.
Yes.
All the Ola drivers that they're talking of, for instance, are quoted, at least 80% of them were actually earlier either in the agrarian sector or have migrated in search of supplementary income which they send back to their homes.
Yes.
So their coming to a big city to drive a car is linked to the agrarian crisis that is currently on in the country. Even the genesis and the basis of agrarian crisis is being completely misread. It's not about giving doles. The problem is of farm produce. The problem is of remunerative pricing. The problem is about how agriculture is perhaps the only commodity in the country that has controls at every level. You have controls.
And 2,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees altogether, will that make a difference?
It won't. No. It won't. Obviously, it's just a talking point issue. It can't alleviate the problem because the problem is way deeper and way longer. And to be fair to the BJP, this problem is not just with the BJP.
Yes.
Both the Congress and the BJP have systematically destroyed that system.
So basically, it's like the BJP was trying to tell the country, yes, we are being fiscally prudent, and at the same time, we are trying to do something. So they're neither here nor there. So basically.
All right, Zafar Islam, I will come back to you on the explicit understanding that we stay with today's budget and not any previous one. And if you're saying the Congress didn't do its job, well, and it's exactly for those reasons why they were booted out and you were voted in. So we should ideally stick to what happened today. So the questions that were asked by all three guests were this: How will you implement, first of all? Do you truly think that this is the solution? And finally, the question that I asked that you didn't really answer, is this intervention a sign that the government is acknowledging that there is a crisis on the ground, which is why you feel the need to hand out money?
Where is the crisis? And do you think that this decision anyway suggests any kind of crisis?
Then why are you giving people money if there is no crisis?
Something there's no crisis. I said there is no economic crisis, unlike what Mr. Chidambaram had mentioned. All I'm saying that if there is a deviation from the convention because something which needed to be done and it cannot wait. At that time, there was a crisis. Everybody knows that there was a policy paralysis. The economy was in bad shape. The macroeconomic parameters
what needed to be done that couldn't wait?
But
why
today,
couldn't it wait
not the case.
3 months?
Economy is in a very sound situation. But these people definitely needed to plan and their tax outgo, and that's why the government had to at least give them some sense, and that's why that intervention had to be done, and that has something which has already been explained by the Honorable Finance Minister on the floor of the Parliament. But away from that, one thing I would like to tell you about the farmer. The Congress party shamelessly, I'm using the word shamelessly, talking about the farmers and farmers' plight. They were in power 2006. The report,
we have done something for them.
Commission report was submitted. These people were sitting on it.
Okay.
Did nothing.
To be fair, you also sat on
They
it.
were sitting on it. And today, shamelessly, they are asking us to do every single thing which they have not
but
done.
But Zafar Islam, didn't you also sit on that report for the first 4 years of your government?
The Party and NDA government will do, not the Congress Party. Now let me highlight few things. Faye.
No, one second.
As far as the farmer and the agriculture sector is concerned, what we have done in last 5 years, you have to see not only the cash support which has been provided to the farmer, but you also have to see what in last 5 years we have done systematically.
One second. Zafar Islam, I'm going to interrupt you for real this time because Arun Jaitley is speaking to the press from New York. We'll just cut across to that.
1,000 crores. A significant part of the money went to traders and businessmen and not to farmers. So a political group or a party which came out with a national hoax of this kind has the audacity to say that a scheme like this at a pan-India level is too little for people who did virtually nothing. Now look at what we've been doing for the farm sector. Rural roads, 91% completed. Rural housing, 2022, everyone will have a roof. 98.7% people in rural areas now have sanitation. Every willing home is having an electricity. Every poor man has switched over the cooking methods. Interest subvention on loans up to 12 lakh crores being given to farmers. The government is taking the burden of cheaper loans. Higher spending on irrigation, rural infrastructure. Then they get an indirect subsidy and a support. A very large number of them are within Ayushman Bharat, so free health care. Then you have a number of them who get the Manrega benefit, which used to be 28,000 crores during UPA, which is now 60,000 crores. Right to food, cheap ration, 1,90,000 crores. Now, over and above all this, the center says that when you buy your inputs, fertilizer, seeds, etc., I'll give you an initial financial support. Loan waivers are never a solution to the farm sector problem in the long run. And income support still is. We first announced that the farmer will get input cost plus 50%. Many get it, but some, the markets don't give them 50%. So you are giving them this additional support of 6,000. And then you have a federal structure, you have state governments. If Telangana can announce, if Odisha can announce, I'm sure the other state governments can also announce. So please don't shed crocodile tears today for the farmers. If you also, the opposition also has several governments, let them announce similar schemes. I'm sure the other governments within their fiscal space will also consider this. And therefore you can top it up. And it's not that as though this is the sole prerogative or the responsibility of the center. We are in a cooperative federalism. Both center and states must cooperate. This is a huge amount that we are doing. And we are now, as against a one-time loan waiver of 52,000 crores, which was partly eaten into by traders and businessmen, this is 75,000 crores in the first year itself. I'm sure it will expand in future years.
This kind of a support scheme for the farmers, does the government actually now say that, agree that there is a crisis in the agriculture?
Well, I think crisis is overstating it. The Indian farmer is really the producer of our food. His productivity levels have hugely improved. And therefore, in the last few decades, we've seen shortages becoming into surpluses. 4 years ago, pulses were in shortage. He's now producing it in surpluses, so the prices go. Now, he gets hit because he's producing more, that the cost goes down. And therefore, world over, the United States is subsidizing its farmers. The European Union is subsidizing their farmer. So everywhere, you maintain a balance between food prices and subsidizing the farmer, so the farmer gets an incentive for producing something. I think our farm sector still needs support. And I'm quite sure if the center and the states come together with these kind of programs, rather than mere myopic slogans, which really will not give a long-term sustenance to the farmer, it can certainly achieve a lot more.
Now, not many Indians, like the citizens, have applauded this budget, the interim budget. They say it's a budget for everyone. It is for the farmers, it's for the middle class. But the opposition and the critics again say this is something to woo the voters. It's that Brahmastra that the BJP is using.
I think, let's be very clear. In the 2009 interim budget, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, not even in the interim budget, but while replying to it, announced a stimulus package where he reduced excise duties 2% across the board. Well, the same argument was available then. In 2014, Mr. Chidambaram, on a number of products, including engineering products, automobiles, gave a duty rebate. The same argument can be taken now. Well, budgets are an essential part of any parliamentary democracy. So are elections. And if good policies of the government and the kind of fiscal space that we have created enables us to help the middle class. And mind you, India's middle class is being very vastly strengthened. I recently went through a study. In 2018, we had 2005, I'm sorry, we had an 18% middle class. In 2015, it was 29%. In 2025, it's projected to be 44%. So within a generation, you will see a large majority of Indians graduating into the middle class. And if UPA inflicted a 10% inflation on them, which we've brought down, obviously the taxpayer also, his real value of money has declined. And therefore, exempting the smaller taxpayer, and mind you, his ability to spend more means a boost to the economy. What we give him by way of a direct tax benefit also comes back by way of indirect taxes, because the purchasing power of India's middle class is improved.
Right. With such big ticket announcements, there must be a sizable...
We're just going to come out of that. That was the finance minister speaking to ANI from New York. The finance minister is on sick leave. He's currently in New York undergoing treatment. But a couple of points he made that were very interesting. He did talk about money that would be left in the hands of the salaried people. And he'd mentioned as a justification for why this interim budget had so many large announcements. He said in 2009, the then Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee announced a stimulus package. And in 2014, Chidambaram gave a duty rebate. So pointing out what you said, that it is a slippery slope. I just want to also, Vivek, point out that this government just gave Pranab Mukherjee a Bharat Ratna, because he was such a model politician and a leading light, and now they are questioning his, his actions. Not a week, 2 weeks after that decision was made.
Yes, so basically they learned from it, learned from him, and then they rewarded him for it, and now they're questioning what he did. So
I also
whatever
want to ask,
works.
I also want to ask this. Zafar Islam said, and the finance minister has been saying in his interviews, that the reason why we did the tax rebate now, instead of waiting for the next government, is because people need to plan their finances. Now, this only comes into action if it does, April onwards, after which in May there will be a new government. And there's very little to be done between now and April, keeping in mind the next financial year in terms of investments or planning of finances. So, what do you think this would have meant?
Sorry?
What do they mean by planning your finances?
I really don't know, because, typically everyone sort of plans their finances in the second half of the year than the first half. So,
yes,
I really don't know. So.
No, for me there is there's a strange contradiction in the so-called reasoning why governments have done whatever they've done. And I'll tell you why. Just a back of the envelope calculation will tell you that the income tax rebates that today have been announced will allow people to have at least 12,500 more per annum.
Yes.
Now imagine these are salaried class people who live in cities who are obviously and arguably more privileged than the distressed rural farmer who gets only 6,000. So essentially you have 6,000 rupees for a farmer who's under way more distress and 12,500 for an urban citizen who actually is paying taxes and is in a slightly better economic situation on a comparative grid, not on an absolute basis. So in itself there is a bit of a contradiction there if the direction was to uplift the farmers in the country.
Yeah, but the thing there is, I guess, that the urban narratives, natives actually control the narrative.
So, absolutely, yeah,
which
that's
is what
the reason.
is more important here. So.
I have to get Akash Jindal's point of view, but we have to come back to maybe this was a move to bring the tax bracket closer to the cutoff for the 10% quota, which is likely to be 8 lakh rupees. So you couldn't have someone paying tax 2.5 lakh rupees onwards, but being considered poor at 8 lakh rupees. And this actually bridges that gap a little bit. But Akash Jindal, you had a point to make in response to Zafar Islam. What is it? Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, again, I'll be back on the 500 rupees for a farmer. See, now, Jafar would remember, I was the one who supported BJP out and out when it came to Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana.
Yes,
now,
you did.
As far as the agriculturist is concerned, what I expected was that there would be a combination of Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana plus input cost. Now, with 500 rupees, what do we intend to do? Neither the Bhavantar Bhugtan nor the input cost. 500 rupees, how would it help the farmer? The Raitu Bandhu scheme itself was better. Now, I have respect for Jaitley Saab, but fiscal situation of the states, are the states in such a position that they can support? States generally fall back on the center for support. So if the center is not giving the money, 500 rupees, how would it work? And again, coming back to the category of EWS, now I am really surprised, let Jafar answer it. On one hand, in Gujarat, you are saying 7,99,000 rupees if a person is earning. He is in economically weaker section. Now, that means that 5,01,000, anybody who is earning is definitely in economic weaker section. So, if you want to be that generous to taxpayers, so then why don't you give the rebate to that person who is earning 5,01,000 rupees, and according to you, he would be an EWS person. So, that person definitely needs a tax rebate. And again, coming back to the jobs issue, now, don't you think you are saying the economy is doing very well? Okay, GDP data says we are growing fastest, but per capita income, do you know where are we standing as far as per capita income is concerned? Or do you want me to give you the data in comparison with not only the leading economies, but even the economies which are much, much smaller in size, growing at a lesser GDP growth rate? So, where are we? We are not having jobs, agriculturists are not being supported, and on other hand, you are saying 7,99,000 is economically weaker section, 5,01,000 is a person who should be taxed by all means. So, where are we?
Yes, yes.
Well, let me respond to
1 second, Zafar Islam. Yes,
yeah, see, basically, I guess, these are all marketing points. And all marketing points together need not make sense. We have to come around to that fact. So.
Okay, Zafar Islam, the first question was, do you believe this 500 rupees in the hands of the farmers would actually make any difference at all? Yes, Rohan, I see your hand go up. Immediately
Of course, it will make the difference. Maybe, Mr. Jindal, of course, this has been done based on certain analysis, certain inputs which have been received from various quarter, and I'm sure that it is not done in isolation, that the government has decided just to do it. There are a lot of people must have been engaged the community, farming community must have been engaged to get some feedback from them.
Who has asked you to give 500 rupees per month?
Jindal may
Who has
not
given
be
you that input?
happy with 5.
Actually, the question is this, Zafar Islam,
you may not be happy.
What research is this, and will the government release it to the public domain? This analysis that has been done of the farming sector, will the government release this report in public so that all of us can read it? And who specifically, which agency of the government advised you to hand out 500 rupees a month?
Let me just complete.
Okay.
I think, let me just complete.
That's what my question is.
There are a few things which I would like. Let me just complete. All I'm saying that Mr. Jindal may not be happy with 500, but the poor farmer, they are welcoming it. They are extremely happy. They feel that this is the government which actually understands their plight and doing it, unlike the previous government who have never done anything for them. Secondly, with the intervention, because it was important, Mr. Jindal, yes, as he rightly said, that who will be the beneficiary of the tax, support which has been rebate which has been given to 3 crore people. It is, as he rightly pointed out, maybe his driver. Yes, your driver must be happy because he is getting the relief. Your servant must be happy. Your people who support you,
you didn't have data on
may be
these
happy
people.
because these are the people. These are the people who are the beneficiary, not you. For you, I'm not saying that for you, the next government, when we will come back in the power, we will do for for the rest. But today, only these people who needed to do their tax planning and TDS, that's why
they don't need to do tax planning. The tax planning that will happen now is for this financial year. Tax planning for next year is done after April, Zafar Islam. First of all. Secondly, till yesterday, the Niti Aayog was telling us they don't have data on the unorganized sector.
No, I think these people will not understand because these people, they are not the people who have been targeted. I'm saying all of us who are sitting here.
Let's talk statistics. We all understand statistics. What report is the government referring to on the agriculture sector? And why has it not been released to the public?
Check with his, whether he's
I want to meet the farmer who is happy with 500 rupees. Can you introduce me to any farmer who is happy with 500 rupees?
He doesn't have to ask you.
Okay. We have someone on the phone. Let's listen to the people on the phone. Mr. Chogley is on the phone line from Mumbai. Mr. Chogley, go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, Ms. Faye.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening. I have this question to Mr. Zafar Islam. Yeah, I have this question to Mr. Zafar Islam. I think it would have been better. I think it would have been better by BJP to announce that they are having money for having a huge city developed, wherein job will be created in form of commissionerates, directorates, sachiwalays, and whatever you have. Also, maybe huge farm production, processing, and preservation. They were talking about.
But these plans were launched 4 years ago.
What happened about that?
Yes, we had the smart cities plan. We had these food park plans where food would be processed and would be stored. And we just heard Arun Jaitley talk about how the farming problem has turned from a shortage problem to a surplus problem, and that's the issue. Where are the food parks? Where we were going to store all this food and package it and acquire it and make sure that the farmers are not at the mercy of food going to waste. So these are actually fair questions. Smart city, housing for all by 2022, or make in India, projects that were talked about heavily in the first few years.
Even from the farming community point of view,
we have already delivered
APMC reforms that were supposed to happen. That has not happened. That has gone into the supply chain management was a big issue which was raised in 2014 campaign. Several years people talked about it, but that's not happened either.
Yes.
You still have agriculture. Every aspect of agriculture is a controlled aspect. This from stocking to selling to exporting to movement.
Yes.
All of this is controlled. And if there is a surplus oversupply, which Mr. Jaitley is right about, you really need to start dismantling this process. You cannot have a sector which is controlled.
To be fair to Mr. Jaitley, the problem existed before they came into power, but they came into power making promises to solve those problems. You had a point.
Yeah. See, agriculture has so many fundamental and structural issues, and I haven't seen any politician till date talk about it. I mean, our farm sizes are small. They're getting smaller by the day. then you have more people in agriculture than required. I mean, there is huge disguised unemployment in agriculture. So the need of the hour is to move people away from agriculture, you know. And that will only happen if you create jobs in sectors like real estate and construction. But both real estate and construction continue to be down in the dumps.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, somebody needs to have this holistic policy to address the...
And you know, if we consider, of course, the domino effect of economics, which when real estate and construction came to a halt, what happened to all of those workers who were working on those construction sites? Where did they go? Did they go back to their villages? Did they go back to the farms? Can the farms support the extra people? Are they making enough money? The answer is no. So then what happens to them? Do they come back to the cities? Can they all become Ola drivers? That answer is no as well.
In fact, you know, on the Ola thing, you know, one point which no one seems to have made is that all these drivers were drivers even before, right? So a lot of these drivers were driving for private guys. So they just happened to move jobs. It's not like jobs are actually being created. I mean...
Yes. So, Zafar Islam first and then Rohan Gupta. Go ahead, Zafar Islam.
I want to make a small point here.
Yes, I'll come back to you after this. I'll come back to you after this, Rohan.
I don't know how many times I heard about job creation. No.
Well, I'll tell you, this is not the last you've heard about
I have to leave, so I'm just making a point, and then you can... Faye, I just want to...
We keep on raising this issue, job creation. Yes.
Let me tell you, there is no way, on a real-time basis, there is no payroll system, there is no organization. This is a challenge which the government is facing, and I think this historically the UPA government has not done, but we have at least put in place a system, and that will eventually work, where on a real-time basis you will have a payroll system. But right now it's only the EPFO data, ESI's data, the pension scheme, all these suggest that how much on a informal sector, how much job which has been created, white-collar job, blue-collar job, and that shows even the Naukri.com, these kind of data suggest that how much job requirement and creation is there, demand is there. But on a real-time basis, you cannot say that that how much job has been lost or created. And secondly, when there is everything in economy is doing well, all the parameters is looking very strong, and the GDP is growing, that only suggests that it cannot happen that this kind of a GDP growth without having
that is true. That is true, Zafar Islam. It cannot happen.
Job has been created, and
I have a small point here.
No, Zafar Islam, would you agree that a lot of this pain that you're hoping to remove in this budget was caused by demonetization? Would you agree to that much?
I think, what are you talking about, Center of Monetary? Have you read the entire report? Have you read the entire report? What does it say?
Who are you speaking with?
It's a private agency.
Have you read? I have read
what does this report say? The 90% women has lost jobs. They also specifically say the male has not lost jobs. No, I have read that report. I have read that report. Don't give me lecture.
Okay, one second.
You people have done nothing for the No, you people have done nothing for the farmers. You people have done nothing for the poorer section of the society.
I can't understand either of you. Vivek, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that, you know, this point about real-time, jobs. I mean, obviously you cannot figure anything out, but the NSSO survey was carried out over a period of 1 year between July 2017 and June 2018. So you need to take that into account. The CMI survey, which they're trying to discredit, has a sample size of 5 lakh people. Mr. Mahesh Vyas has been in the business for years and years. I mean, he has a reputation to maintain. So,
and you know, even if the argument about the CMI survey is the fact that it's a private organization, what did you do with your own Statistics Commission, which is the National Statistics Commission? You rubbished even their report.
I mean,
and
you know, government rubbishing its own reports.
Its own data, yes.
And no. Okay, just one last point. Sorry.
They are in denial mode.
NSSO is a very important input into the GDP.
Against them is wrong.
So, if the NSSO data is also not kosher, then what is kosher?
Yes.
So, I'm very intrigued. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Zafar Iqbal realizes that while he's rubbishing CMI data because it's a private body, the Naukri.com and Ola and Uber are also private entities whose data point he's quoting to say, oh, it's great. So I just can't understand the logic of this argument.
And you know what worries me is the treatment of statistics and the treatment of data. And on one hand, you're telling us that, oh, someone must have done the analysis that led us to hand out 6,000 rupees to all the farmers. Who is this someone? What is the analysis? Can we see the report? These are the same questions we asked about demonetization. Answers we haven't received yet. If you're telling us that you're going to actually do something for unorganized workers, then please tell us what data you have, because up until now the government kept refuting a job crisis, saying that there's no way to measure whether unorganized workers have lost jobs or have they gained jobs, and that was a larger problem. So if you've made these decisions, then please tell us how. And we haven't even gotten to how you're going to implement and the challenges of implementation. We're just talking about the fact that these three big decisions that you're talking about, the pensions for unorganized workers, the 6,000 rupees to farmers, and of course the tax benefit that you're giving to the lowest bracket of salaried class, what were your motives? Are you doing this because the economy is in crisis? Are you doing this because someone submitted a report to you that you're acting on? What is your motive and answer? We haven't received yet, and in the absence of that answer, we have to assume the motive is purely the 2019 elections. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll come back to look at implementation of these plans and the challenges or the various challenges in implementation on the other side. Don't go anywhere.